Hey everybody, I know a lot of you guys out there are getting ready for bow season, and some of you guys have even gone out and picking up new bows. In some cases, even good quality used bows. Well, today's tip, I'm going to cover a few of the basic tricks and tips that I know when you're looking for a used bow so you don't end up wasting your money and buying a piece of junk. One thing that I've learned in this business after 15 years is if you get a guy that's wanting to sell his Matthews for $150 and it's only a couple of years old, it's either stolen, number one, or it's got a lot of problems. So let's cover a few of those things so you guys don't get burned. I know everybody out there has a friend of a friend of a friend of a cousin's, brother's, uncle's, aunt's, nephew who has a really good deal on a brand new bow. Well, one thing that I've learned about this business and about dealing with customers that have bows for sale, 9 times out of 10, there's a lot more to that bow being cheap than you think. It's going to have a lot of problems. It's going to cost you a lot of money to fix it, so you're going to end up having the same thing as if you bought a brand new bow. Or the bow's hot, stolen, you're going to be at a 3D shoot, shooting that bow. Some guy's going to recognize it because it's his custom colored strings or something, and he's going to come over here, and it's going to be a bunch of problems. So number one is don't buy into the deals unless you know those guys really, really well, because you can get in big trouble buying hot stuff, and it's just a pain. So what we're going to talk about, you can't dictate hot stuff, if the bow's hot or not, unless you got a lie detector or something. So we're going to look at the quality of the bow and the condition of the bow. The first thing that I like to do when I pick up a bow that a person wants to sell to me, and they do it all the time, they want me to buy it or trade it in on another bow, is I look at the condition of the bow. I look at the general cosmetic state of the bow. A lot of times you're going to see paint war. That's common. It's not that bad around your riser. You're going to see that. That's the common place. It's going to wear right here where the hands are touching, and it's going to wear on the grip itself. That's going to be something common. There's nothing you can really do. As far as value, depends on how bad it is. If they picked at it and it looks all crappy, yeah, it's going to drive the value down. I like to look to see if the bow's been dinged up a lot. This can be cosmetic, number one, but on the corner of the limbs, this can actually be crucial to the limb state as far as being, cracked or something. And generally, it's going to happen on the corner edges. So I'll feel the bow over. I'll rub around the edges, and you're feeling for anything that's sticking out like a burr. These limbs should be perfectly smooth. You shouldn't feel any splinters. Paint, being knocked off of it is the best place to look. If you see where it's been chipped, check it out. Dipped bows are really notorious for showing that. Check both limbs. Definitely, you want to rub both limbs and check them. The other thing I look for dings in is I look for the cams and the tracks. I'm going to show you guys in a second what it looks like to have a ding in your cam, and I'm going to show you what it looks like to have a cracked limb and show you how to find that. But right now, we're just examining this bow. We're checking it out. And it's not a bad idea to do this if you're just pulling out your bow that you used last year. It's been in the case. Jerk it out, check it out, go over it real good. So I'm checking out the cams, feeling the tracks. So far, this feels pretty good. There's no burrs, nothing that I can visually see. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead. I'm satisfied with that. I'm satisfied that the limbs integrity is there. I've also checked right in the forks where the cams and the idler wheels are at. I've checked there when I'm feeling it over for cracks. I don't see anything. But I feel confident that everything here with this bow is going to be safe. So we're going to go ahead and draw it back, and we're going to listen. Now, if the guy's standing there running his mouth, telling him to be quiet for a second, you want to hear what this bow sounds like. What you're listening for is any kind of cracking sound or any kind of grinding sound. A squeak, that's nothing. That's probably just a lube problem with a cable slide or a roller, something like that. The guy's probably not been shooting it, so you're probably going to hear a little squeak. You may not. We're going to draw this one back. We're going to listen. And while we're listening, we're going to watch the top wheel to see if it does any kind of pivoting. When we're doing that, we're checking for a bent axle. And we're also checking for real bad cam lean, which can be a dictator to tell you that you're having problems with the strings and maybe the cables need replacing. I drew it back nice and slow, and I heard nothing. You could try to let it down as slow as you can too, and listen for the squeaks going in the opposite direction or the cracks. Now, I checked the top wheel as I drew it back. I was watching. It didn't do anything out of the ordinary. It smoothly came back to place. You want to draw it back again, and you're going to look at the bottom cam this time. and you're going to see that if it does any kind of leaning. This is going to tell you if there's a bent axle. And people think that the axles can't get bent. When you drop a bow out of a tree stand from 20 feet and it hits a stump or something, and boom, yeah, you can bend an axle, man. Trust me, I've seen it happen. And keep in mind, too, when I drew this back, you notice I used my fingers. And the reason I did that is because I don't trust my release without an arrow on it. That's a mechanical device that can fail. And this trigger finger sometimes gets itchy, and it can prematurely touch that sucker off, and you could dry fire. That's definitely a no-no. The last thing that I look at on a bow to determine the value and determine if it's worth it is going to be the accessories, the rest, the sights, the quiver, the arrows. And even if the arrows have broadheads, does it come with release? Does he have a bow case? You got to put all these factors in together to make sure the value is going to be something in a parameter, so it's worth it. And actually, I think that the accessories at times can be something that makes a bow that's not necessarily worth the money, just by accessories. They tend to hold their value, especially if they're good stuff. They're still working, like your drop-away rest is working, and you got good fiber optic sights. Now I'm going to show you guys some really cool little tricks that's going to help you even further save yourself some money. If you're looking for cracked limbs on a bow, sometimes a camouflage painted bow limb will have cracks in the camo where they dipped it. It's just the way it does. It'll just separate. It'll be little hairline cracks. So you can't tell if it's really a crack or not. You can. You take a cotton ball, something just as simple as a cotton ball, a Q-tip will even work, and you're going to rub it on the limb right where you think the crack is at. I've got a bunch of cracked limbs and stuff around here that I've kept over the years, and a bunch of messed up cams and stuff. I'm going to show you what I look for. And when you're looking for a crack, you take your cotton swab and you want to rub it up and down the limb, right around where you think there's a suspected crack. You can rub it all over the limb, just in case there is a small crack and you can't see it. Any separation of the laminates will catch the fibers of the cotton ball, and it's actually going to pull part of the cotton out, and it's going to show you where the crack is. Check it out. All you do is just take your cotton swab, and you're going to rub it through there like so, and you're going to see that it's catching the fibers. Now this limb's got a hairline crack. Now it may not be as bad, but you can see right there's the fibers. They're getting pulled out by the crack in the limb. And I'm looking right in the forks. See it starting to pull out there? That's a good indication you got a crack in the limb. And buying the bow secondhand, even if the bow's still under warranty, the company's more than likely not going to cover that limb, and it's going to cost you anywhere from $75 to $150 more, depending on the bow. Now, looking for burrs on your idlers and your cams. I've got an old limb off of a bow here, and it's actually got a burred cam. That's not why it came off. I'm not sure why I've got this, but I do. Somebody's probably wondering where their bottom limb's at to their bow. Man. Anyway, we're going to use it so we can learn something here. Now, it's got a burr inside the track. And what that looks like is it looks just like a burr. Basically, what's happened is it's been hit on the edge hard enough that it's bent inside towards where the string's going to be laying in the track. And that right there is enough to damage your string or your cable. Now, another thing you can do is if you're running into this, say you're checking out this same bow, you can also take your cotton ball and you can rub it right around the cams, and it'll catch on any little burrs, even if you can't see. See how it does that when you rub it right across that little burr? And it's actually pulling it. You can feel it. So the cotton ball, pretty good little trick. And it's nothing. Put that dude in your pocket, and when next time when you're going to go look for a new bow, whether it be a pawn shop or a shop that actually sells used bows, or an individual, pull out the old cotton ball trick on them. It'll definitely gain you a lot of respect. Those guys know that you won't be easily snookered. Well, that's just a couple of tricks and a couple of things that I look for when I buy a bow. Remember, definitely think that the process through. There's a lot of good bows out there, and there's a lot of great used bows out there. I'm not saying that every used bow you run into is going to be a hunk of junk, going to have a lot of problems, because I get a lot of them that come through the door. More than not are actually good quality bows and worth the money. And I hope that tip has helped you guys out, and I hope it saves you a few bucks, and I hope you get a good quality bow. And if you do, hey, send me a picture over there at bowtuningtips.com. I love to look at them, and I'll post them on the gallery. Thanks, and until next time, you guys stay tuned.